where you have an officer basically around the neck area.
These two retired Vegas cops now podcast hosts.
They don't have ID, they can't get into a hotel room. To get them the help they need, especially if someone even gets arrested. A lot of people don't know how the justice system works.
But I want someone to actually know them and know that it's legit.
I see a big 2023 for this group right here.
I would, in general, be wary of the storefront psychic.
You guys have going on is necessary, it's needed.
Hey everybody, this is David Kohlmeyer, the Problem Solver. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are now in 2023. Welcome.
Hey.
So we got a little bit of an intro, a little bit of updated intro with Dr. G and Laura there, which was great.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway, so welcome today. So we have a lovely Dr. G Gentille. Thanks so much for joining co-host.
Thank you for having me again.
We have Danny Miner, the crime solver in the house.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
We have Erin, who's with Moving Mortgage as a guest today.
Glad to be here, thank you.
And Laura, our psychic medium, helping us to the future here today.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So today, it's funny. We had an interesting day because we actually, I'll bring it up. We started a crime solver, a podcast basically where we were live, and Danny basically took lead as a host. And there was actually, you want to just kind of share a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to brag a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where we did the podcast, it was the most viewed podcast they've ever had.
Wow.
And that came from them. We had callers come in say it's the best podcast they've ever seen. We had 26,000 plus people watch us.
That's amazing.
So it went really good. We got call after call. I think we're on to something.
Yeah, so it was an interesting experience because basically it was just people calling,
What were they saying? What were they asking them?
You name
Just
it. They
random
were
stuff.
asking. A call after call. And we couldn't even handle all the calls. It was insane. A call
Wow.
after call after call.
So, Danny basically, we talked about it before, he basically has about 126,000, 127
129,000 right now.
Yeah.
Going up every day.
129.
So it's all about basically about crime, and the big thing, which is kind of scary, the Idaho homicide
Yes.
with the 4 college students. I know you got almost college students, right?
I have a graduate from college.
Graduate.
Yep. And then 3. We have 3 in college.
So that case has gotten a lot of publicity in general. So Danny's been talking about it every single day, and we did the first podcast there. But it was all basically people calling in. And it's actually interesting because they only have one line at this particular location, the studio. So people couldn't even call in. Like Angry Steve was calling.
Oh, was he?
And he's like, I couldn't call. I was calling for 10 minutes. You guys don't pick up,
Steve.
But there's only one line that's there.
Yeah.
And people, I guess there was so many calls coming in. And if you're on the air, right, for 5 or 8 minutes, another person can get through. So it was kind of an interesting experience today in general.
Yeah.
Danny took lead, did a great job. It was different because so many people were calling and they were asking kind of interesting questions about, the Idaho. You can't talk about this thing forever.
But you can only answer one question at a time anyway.
I know,
so
it's insane. It was insane.
It was interesting because we did have the TikTok, Facebook. It was like all these things coming at
should
you.
be scrolling so you can
so
answer
there was several
questions.
things scrolling at the time with questions. So it was very interesting. It was an interesting experience.
Let me just say, I know we're going to get into this. I just want to ask the girls here what you think it is. Have any of you followed the Idaho case at all?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the affidavit came out today. And basically, one of the surviving girls saw the suspect.
But she didn't call the cops.
And she didn't call the cops.
That's what I was like, what? Why
That's
would you
weird.
not call the cops?
I have-
a man
that's
in your
so
house with a
strange.
mask is in
Wow.
your house at like 4 a.m. and you just go back to bed?
And she heard somebody crying and saying, I'll help you. And then she sees this man and she goes back to bed and calls the cops 9 hours later.
That's so
Maybe
weird.
I mean, this doesn't even make sense to me.
Well, maybe she thought someone was getting, some action or something.
I don't know.
And they're role playing or something. Who knows? I don't know. But they're probably fucked up too, right?
I think that she was in shock and maybe she was like almost like hiding and didn't know when to come out. People like, right? You ever see movies where
She went back to sleep though, I think.
No, maybe she was so drunk or intoxicated that
Inebriated,
she didn't even,
I don't know. To me, that's strange.
I mean, it's a
man.
bit
strange.
That's strange.
It's a big question,
Yes.
but like I don't want to like quarterback this woman that was there.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think she was involved in anything. That
Oh,
she
I
was
don't
in
either,
shock or-
but it's weird.
It's a sad situation. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that they caught the guy, and a lot of questions were coming up about that.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
Wow.
you got to just be so careful. And one of the big issues is that I was watching a psychologist online talking about this guy who basically was definitely mentally unstable, but it was more like bullying where people were making fun of him, and he was in I think he was in, was he graduate?
He was
class?
a PhD student.
Yeah, he's a PhD
even
in
his-
criminology.
Yeah. So
which
even-
is scary.
Yes. Yes.
So basically, he himself was like bullied, and he was just socially awkward
Yep.
around women and stuff like that. And you have to be very careful these days. And I think it's worse now than it probably was ever years ago, or maybe with social media, we're educated more about these things in other states. But you just got to be careful. Even with my little girl who's 8 years old, right, bullying in classrooms. I'm telling my kid to speak up and say something when there's issues. You got to just be so careful these days.
That's why I'm kind of
Absolutely.
fucked up. I was bullied all through school.
Were you really?
Yeah.
What's the reason why?
That's why I'm challenged.
What would you
tell?
say? Why? Because you were from.
Oh, because I was the only minority
Okay.
in my whole school. There was one other Asian person. He got bullied too. I protected
Really?
him later. Yeah, but all through.
So you're the minority.
Yeah, I was the minority. So I mean, it was gum thrown in my hair
Aw.
every single day. I was waiting for the bus. The boys would come and fight with me. Literally, I would just be a mess by the time I got to school.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
I think
is.
it's worse these days because now also with social media, right? The
Yeah.
bullying going on with social media, it's even worse.
Yep.
Because you really can make someone look poor, look really bad.
Bad,
online.
feel bad. Yeah. Yep.
So
Oh yeah.
it's
Just
something to
delete
learn
those. Yep.
from the situation.
So Dave, I noticed you're wearing
I-
your shirt that is your name. So
I
just in
forgot,
case you forgot
Yeah,
who
just
you
in case
are.
I forget when I wake up in the morning. have I had a really, really bad night?
Who am I?
I've had a really bad night. I actually forgot to change my shirt, which is funny. I was talking to Danny, and this is another problem solver shirt that we have. We need to get each one
More
of you with your names.
artistic. I would like that.
Like this one better?
Well, no, I
Maybe-
just
maybe-
mean it's more artistic. The other one is really easy to read.
Maybe for 2023, I have to change it to the shirt.
It's
I like the-
fancier writing.
It's fancier writing. Should you like this one better? So I think he's the fashion.
Compared to what?
Fashionista. My other problem solver.
I don't remember.
Maybe we have to
honestly.
change it up for 2023.
That's better.
This one's better?
Yeah.
It's just strange that your name is on it.
Well, let's say if you're having a rough night and you wake up, like, oh, I'm Dave Kohlmeyer. You see these movies, right? You're not sure who you are.
I'm sure that
Little
happens
too
a
much.
lot.
That probably happens to you all the time.
Oh yeah, all
Like,
the
who am I?
time.
Where am
Yeah.
I? Who
Where,
am
Where am
I?
I? Who am I?
Where's my
who are my
purse?
Tell me,
with?
when you wake up and you're like in a strange hotel room, like you normally on the strip, are you like, where am I? Who's this guy?
Well, it happens so often, every day, that it's not a strange thing anymore for me. You see?
But I'll be honest. If you wake up and there's a guy next to you, are you like, in your mind, like, wait, which guy is this today?
Yeah, that happens too because
Yeah.
there's just so many.
It's like a work hazard for
I
you.
know. I don't even know their
Right?
name.
She puts a name tag on them.
Yeah.
When they go to sleep.
No, be honest. Have you ever woken
Like
up
Dave.
and the guy's next to you and you're just really, you're not totally sure?
No, never.
Okay.
Not once in my life.
I thought, no, because it's like a work, in her
I've
work,
only had
in her
sex
line
with
of,
I've only had sex with 10 people in my whole life.
in
So,
her line
yeah.
of work, I just thought, you know what I'm saying? You know what she
Yeah.
does?
No.
She's a realtor. In her line of work, it's,
Exactly.
she means a lot of people,
She does make
All right, moving on to real estate since she's a realtor.
How do you think I make my sales?
There you go.
right.
There's always a tax. Like
You know,
buy real estate.
2022 was a rough year.
Exactly.
Well, 2023 may be worse. I don't know. So you have to do whatever you got to do to make a living these days, especially if you're a realtor.
We've learned good tactics.
So I want to talk about real estate. This is Danny's favorite topic, real estate. He's always like, let's talk about real estate. Let's bring mortgage agents. Let's bring realtors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can bring a doctor on.
Danny loves
Or
doctors.
CPA, maybe.
That's always
Oh,
fun.
this is Danny's idea.
No, just messing with him.
Being facetious.
It's not easy. Look, we got a psychic for you. We got a love doctor here for
Yeah,
you. Love that
Jesus.
realtor.
Listen, Chase, everything I said was right. Okay? I wanted to get a psychic. I did.
psychic.
I know, and we did, and that was right. She, I
This was
said,
even more beautiful than the psychic person that you had. You have like a model psychic, right?
Yes.
He had the psychic, not that looks is everything, but he had the psychic that was like real old school. So we have a beautiful model
She had
celebrity
a crow.
psychic for
She
you.
had a crow's nose.
I stepped it up a level for you. But anyway,
Danny needs a lot of stimulation. That's why.
so is that true?
That's why he needs the variety.
Yeah. I like that. So what I wanted to do from regards to the Problem Solver Show, when we originally started this podcast, the goal was to help solve problems. And I brought on different people that would put Danny to sleep the first week if you watch some of the episodes. I mean, there were different nonprofits and different things like that. Things have changed a little bit because Danny's been inspirational for the show and says, hey, we need to have different guests and different people. So like I said, we brought on a sex doctor and a celebrity just specifically for Danny. But anyway, my goal always is to help people. But I will share, I've had, Danny laughs when I always say that people call the Problem Solver. People call 702-999-1111, and I get calls all the time. And this week was a really crazy week. I had a guy who, it's a sad situation, even though the guy has a past. But the guy basically, I'll just share a real quick story because I was working 48 hours to help this guy. He's like a homeless guy, 83 years old, and he had 2 strokes. His left leg doesn't work, and he's in an electric wheelchair. And he basically was in a bus accident where it flips over, and his electric chair basically breaks, right? And this guy is homeless, has no place to go, right? And he calls me. He says, "Look, I'm stuck, and I can't move the chair."
Right.
And imagine his left leg's not working, and he's stuck at like it was like Tropicana in Maryland, and it's
7-Eleven?
one of these places, like a
Yeah.
fast food place.
Okay.
He can't, but he doesn't want to leave his chair because there's value, right, to his chair. And he's homeless, but he was able to be mobile when it worked. And he's calling me like I'm stuck. So I tried calling all these places. Can someone come out? I would pay money out of my own pocket to like fix this guy's scooter, and nobody would go out to help this guy. He slept in front of the. It was not what do you call it? A Jack in the Box.
Okay.
It was a jack. He slept, and what he did was he put his jacket, over himself to sleep on the chair. And it was a sad situation. And when he called me, I figured something was going to happen. Like I just never had this situation. And he was there for like 30 hours, like stuck in front of this place. So I'm on the phone. My wife and kids were in bed. I'm like on the phone with 911 trying to get them to come out. But he doesn't want to leave his scooter on the street because
It'd be
the
taken.
ambulance company doesn't want to take it with him. So I'm like, look, forget about the scooter. It's not working. I'll help you with that. Go in the ambulance, go to the hospital, get off the street. And at the end, I hear the ambulance people, how like cops, like cynical, EMS people are. They're like, is it working? Did you try charging it? And so at the end, the ambulance winds up leaving. I'm like, look, you need to you're gonna die out there. He's 83 years old. He had 2 strokes. He's like, look, can you call the ambulance again? I'll go with them. I'm like, just say you have a breathing problem. So call 911 again.
Yeah.
I have to sell 911 to go back out there to go get the guy. Finally, he says, I got a breathing problem, and he's in the hospital. He's got pneumonia. But like I was working to help this guy, and you just feel bad, but you think you're in a bad situation. This guy was is a horrible situation. So sometimes I think we're more fortunate than a lot of people, but it's sad. But I do try to really help different people have problems. In regards to real estate, my goal is I feel that everybody should have a home. Erin, actually, something you don't know, Danny, as well, and Gentille. Erin helped me get my first home back in 2008 and 2009. It was a foreclosure at the time, and we met through some interesting ways. And basically, she helped me get a home.
Awesome.
And if you're not knowledgeable, if you don't have the right people you feel comfortable with, then you won't purchase a home, and it's a big deal.
I agree.
It's a big deal in general, and there's a lot when you buy a home. So I wanted to just talk about real estate and mortgages through Erin, because my goal with the Problem Solver Show that if somebody is renting and someone wants to buy a home, that I want them to use Erin, and I think it's our mission for the year that if people want to go buy a home, that we need to have someone like Erin and Gentille, who's a realtor, help get people a home. But I want to talk about the market because everyone's scared right now what's going on. So but let's start with you, Gentille.
Okay.
Tell us about what your thoughts are. You've been doing real estate how long?
30 years. I started out as an investor first, and then I got my license here in Nevada to be an agent. So I've been an agent for 15 years, but I know every aspect of real estate. I've done it all, from every side or every angle. So that's why I'm successful with it. So I know exactly what to look for.
Share a funny story, because Danny as well, because the whole cop thing. There's a program, I don't know if you know.
It's like, what?
What?
No, there's a program, I'm not sure if they had it in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
where it was cops and teachers.
Oh, yes.
You heard about that program?
They have
No.
that. They have that here too.
So it was a HUD program, and if you're a cop or a teacher, you can get a home for half the price. But normally, okay, you didn't know about this? So
I
what
bought
happened-
2 houses. I never got them for half price.
So what happens is, but a lot of times they're in areas that are not like the best.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a lottery. And in New York City, when I was a cop, I did this lottery every week, and I didn't even see the home. So I won the lottery. There's a lottery that you could win, and when you win, you can decide if you want to follow through with an inspection. I remember winning it. I go out to this home, and it was actually in Long Island, like more of the suburb. But it was like I went out there. The grass is up there. It's really distressed. It's boarded up. There's roosters running around. But the truth is, I just wasn't knowledgeable at the time.
Right.
I should have bought the home. It was half off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I know what you
But to me, when you go there, right, it looks like. And I remember going with a girlfriend at the time. She's like she's thinking like I'm gonna live here.
Yeah.
But if you clean the place up, right,
Yeah.
if you it probably would have been fine. But it
Yeah.
looks so bad.
Right.
And the area wasn't such a bad area, but it would have been my first home.
Yes.
But again, I was nervous. I didn't know a mortgage agent. I didn't know a realtor. I didn't know what to do. I just got this home with roosters running around, and it's boarded
And
up.
boarded up.
But it was half off. So I come out here to Vegas, and there's another home I was looking into, but I was afraid like it was kind of a bad area.
Right.
And you have to live there. I think it's what is it, like a year or two?
Oh, for the HUD?
But it's like a HUD program, right?
Possibly. It
different
has
buildings.
to be owner occupied, right, with HUD for sure. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the difference between like a first-time home buyer and an investor. Investors see that house completely different.
It's a gold mine.
Doesn't
Absolutely.
matter where it's at either. Because remember, I mean, there's always going to be a need for a place to live for shelter.
Yeah.
Regardless
Everyone
of
needs
where
a
it's
place. Mm-hmm. So how did you become so successful in doing real estate? What?
at.
Because even though we've spoken numerous times, I really truly
Yeah.
don't understand how you became a millionaire through real estate.
It's just, okay, so I bought my first property at 19.
Okay.
I knew that I didn't want to rent forever. So I saved up every single penny, working 3 jobs when I was 17 to 19, and then bought my very first home. And I lived there for many years, and then it became a rental afterwards. So you're able to make more money as an investor, obviously, right? So you get the cash flow going after your first one, and then you flip that, and then you have a little cash on hand. It's pretty extensive. There's not like I can't give you like a, what do you call it,
Roadmap.
a roadmap that says, okay, do this, this, and this, and this, and you're going to succeed.
Right.
Not necessarily. There is a little bit of a knowledge that I bring to the table for people that want to buy and people that want to invest, right? So yeah, there is a roadmap for me because I know exactly what needs to be done, and I negotiate, and it's a lot.
Okay.
Now I was able to snowball it into bigger properties, right? So after I sold my first and second, and then I held a lot of properties for rental too. So
Okay.
now you have the rental income coming in. A lot of my properties I bought as an investor, it was all cash because it's just easier. Now, there are investors that won't do completely cash, right? Because they want to leverage their money, which is fine too. Then you can buy several properties. So there's a lot of different types.
Mm-hmm.
But I became very successful just by the snowball effect. You buy one, and you buy another one, and then you buy another one, and it keeps growing. So the asset kept growing.
Do you feel that you were just fortunate with timing, like people in 2009, there were foreclosures?
Yeah.
Did you hit it right? Because a lot of people lost a lot of money. That's what
Absolutely.
scares a lot of people.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it takes the right guidance, right? Someone like Erin, myself, that are familiar with the market, that knows the market. I mean, we all can't, be like Laura and maybe predict the future, right? but to some degree, we know exactly what's going on in the current market right now. So you need good guidance to help you with your transaction.
I just came up with a great thing for Laura that when you want to go buy a home,
Take
you
her
have to
with
take
you.
Laura. And she closes
with
her
you.
eyes and like, is this a good
That
investment?
actually is something that clients hire me for.
I like
Really?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like for example, I have a client who's a real estate investor, and that she'll ask me, is this a good investment?
Yeah.
And I'll say, okay, well, here are the things with the house, not just physically but energetically. Like, oh, they did satanic rites in the basement. That needs to be
Right,
figured out.
right.
Or weird stuff can come up, especially a lot of these distressed houses where
Yeah.
they're wanting to flip. So yeah.
You never know.
Do you feel that you have to go to the location physically or just a picture?
Physically.
No.
Like I would feel better if I was
I
going to hire
don't.
you that you would actually physically go to the
I
location.
do, but I don't have to. No, I can tune in remotely. And I've even
Really?
had people just tell me the address or whatever, and then they'll be like, and I'll say, oh, it's upstairs, but they haven't even told me the layout, and I can
Yeah.
see it.
Wow.
You know, I know I'm changing the topic a little bit
Yeah.
here, but I'm just curious what your thoughts were.
Yeah.
There was a murder that took place where there was a doctor that got killed and got placed in the trunk of the car. Remember I told you it was
Oh.
Here in Nevada?
Casey Turner, and she killed his doctor, put in the trunk. And I went to do a documentary interview, and they got an Airbnb home, and the home just happened to be nearby where the murder took place, and they didn't know about it. And the address was like 7474, whatever the street was, and my phone number is 400-7474. And I thought, like, what is the chances that my number matches that home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, don't you think it's a little weird?
Yeah.
Like,
A
I
little
mean,
weird.
out of all the numbers, like most homes, right, are like
Yeah.
4286, Chauncey Street, right?
What? That's
this
coincidence,
this was
David.
7474, and the street name, it was nearby, and they just the Airbnb was like a little like dark because they were filming and stuff, but I felt it was definitely awkward that my number matched. Would you believe in the number thing?
Were you living there or something?
No.
Oh, okay, and you're not associated with that
No, but
property
the
at
murder
all,
took
right?
place. I mean, the guy got killed
Yeah.
inside this home.
Yeah.
And I was just doing the documentary interview. But
Well,
for the numbers to match, I think this is really awkward.
That is
Little
unusual.
interesting.
Sometimes, though, we are getting messages through numbers, so maybe those numbers were just important for you to pay attention to.
Synchronicity.
So something called angel numbers. You can just Google like angel numbers, and whatever number is coming up for you, there's a symbolic meaning of that number.
Right. So the universe is trying to talk to you.
Talk to- I don't
That's
know.
what she's
Yeah.
saying.
I just
yes.
thought it was really awkward.
Yeah. So,
So
anyways.
we just, but I like the concept of and that could be the new that could be the new marketing with you, Gentille and Laura, that your
Synchronicity.
psychic goes out,
Yeah.
you know, with your clients.
Oh, yeah.
And gets a vibe like this is no good. All right,
Yeah,
next one.
or energy clearing, clearing, because once
That
you
would be
clear
better.
the energy, then it makes way for the physical one. So
Mm-hmm.
when there's a house, for example, where everything is fine, and this is especially in good market conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and it should be selling, but it's not selling, it's usually because there's something energetically going on with the property, and if you shift the energy, then it can sell more easily. So I've been hired by a lot
possible.
of clients for that.
Yeah, it's possible. I do have clients too sometimes that won't buy a resale house because they were afraid someone passed away in it. And now Vegas, we're fairly new and we have a lot of
Right.
new builds. But if you're talking about the East Coast or Europe and stuff, I mean, those properties are around for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? So someone had to have
Yeah,
passed in
yeah.
them. But yeah.
Erin, would you feel
hauntings.
weird living in a home knowing that someone passed away?
I don't know.
Like if it's just a regular natural,
Probably just
old,
depends.
like old age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thought process of that is a little odd. I think sometimes you can overthink even just a resale, right? But I mean, I think it'd be fine. But
Yeah.
again, I think you feel an energy too when you walk into a house.
Sure.
So every state's different. So how does it work?
Yeah.
So if there's a murder that takes place inside a home,
Here in
with
Nevada.
disclosure.
No, you don't have to disclose it here in Nevada. The only time you have to disclose it is if the property was the cause of that death. You know, like a roof fell on them or something like that. Yes, or a beam. Then they have to disclose it.
Danny, how would you feel if you bought a home and you knew, like 8 weeks later, the neighbor's like, "Did you know that John got murdered here?"
It wouldn't bother me.
It wouldn't bother you?
It probably
Sorry to
depends
laugh,
on.
but you're just like, what else?
I honestly, it wouldn't bother me a bit. But I figure it. There's every single house had somebody die in it.
Yeah. that's
People
something.
die all the time.
Or something.
Or something.
Yeah.
Well,
Something-
unless the
so-
spirits are attacking you specifically or personally, I mean, who cares?
I
guess
don't
that's what-
think I'm going to get attacked by spirits.
I guess
I
that's
believe
what-
in the UFOs, but I don't believe in the spirits.
Well, I guess what,
You've never been raped by a spirit yet?
I've never seen a ghost in my life. I never anything like
Danny, you're missing out.
that. I'm not saying I there might be. I just never seen.
He'd be like,
it.
bring it on.
you know what's interesting is that when you buy a new home, you would never have that experience. Like,
But
that
it's
we-
also the land,
The land
that it was
itself.
built
The land,
on.
yes.
So there's been a lot of, like, especially Colorado, where there's
movies.
a lot of like burial grounds
Yes.
and Native American land, and or old cemeteries that were just
Yeah.
removed, and then you can still have haunting issues in a
Yeah.
new build house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Erin, tell us a little bit about like people that want to buy a home and that you can help them out. Tell them, like, a lot of people probably like first time home buyers.
Sure.
I guess also maybe conversations just what do we think about this market right now? You know,
Well,
what's going on?
Because
I'm afraid myself that things are dropping and
No, I think people need to stop watching the news.
Yes,
honestly,
exactly.
because media sells for a reason, right? And I mean, you just think about your daily life, right? You're watching the news in the morning or in the evening, and every once in a while you'll have a good, like they'll have a good story that comes on, like dog saves somebody or this, and you listen, but you're like, eh, and then some horrific thing happens, or going back to the Idaho issues, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the more they can dramatize the media, they do. And so the housing market, that's a big thing to talk about, right?
Yes.
Rates, that's a huge thing to talk about.
Yeah.
But I feel like, unfortunately, most people don't take the time to do the research and read. I guess it has to do with anything.
Yeah.
But if you really truly want to know what's going on, you need to listen to the people that are in that market every day, that are truly watching and listening and hearing. And the markets, if you do it was interesting because I was talking to a client the other day, and if you pull up the history of interest rates over the last 30 years, the rates today are actually pretty steady for where they have been over the last 30 years.
Right.
In fact, the dip we've been in the last 3 or 4 years, the 2.5%,
Abnormal.
3%,
Yeah.
very abnormal.
Yes.
And it's not happened. And so it becomes educating people again, or reacquainting people
Yes.
with our market and where they've been and what their long-term and short-term goals are. And you can't believe everything you
Read or see. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. And the news tend to do like this doomsday thing.
Yes, they
oh my
do.
God,
Housing
a
crisis,
recession.
housing
Oh,
crash.
it's coming. Yeah, no, it's
But what do you
BS.
think about like people that bought a home like 6 months or a year ago? The home is dropping like 75 grand, 100 grand. Like,
Well, yeah, but that's such a short term, right? But I understand how people just live and compare to whatever they've just experienced.
Right.
No one looks at that long term thing, right? I mean, prices are decreasing. slightly because of that interest rate that's gone up to what, like 7% now, right? We're at 7?
It's lower. So you're
Yeah,
probably
6.
looking, I mean, there's high fives.
Yeah.
You're probably, honestly, from 6 to 7,
Yeah.
depending on the type of loan and risk.
Right. And the financial situation of the buyer, right? The one
Correct.
that's getting that loan. So that determines your interest rate. I mean, and every year it's been the same for the last decade, right? So you have an increase and decrease of between 5 and 10%, which isn't that big of a deal.
And there's more demand. So if you look at what happened back in 2006, 7, 8, right, when we had that housing crash, there was a lot more going on in the economy than just the housing crash. But if you look at the supply and demand, I mean, everything is supply and demand, right? And the housing market is dictated by supply and demand. And back in those years, the builders, new home construction, if you look at the charts, the amount of production that they were putting out and new home construction was huge. It was off the charts compared to the demand for it.
Right.
This market, the demand is still extremely high based on new home builds, resales, what's out there. And we're also seeing where we now have, you know, the new age, the 30-year-old, 30 plus that are all needing homes. You still have the baby boomers and all of that. So the demand is still outweighing supply.
Yes.
And that's why I just don't think there's going to be a housing crash.
No. And I have some friends that bet me every like certain year, like a few years ago, and every single person have lost money to me.
Yeah.
And I have another bet going right now, actually, with Anthony, because he's like, he goes, yeah, in 6 months it's gonna, I'm like, no, it's not gonna do anything. I'm telling you. I go, so right now people should not be afraid to buy. Properties are sitting on the market a little bit longer, about 100 days is the average, right? And which is good for a buyer, even though the interest rates are a little bit higher. But you're looking at the difference in payment from, 6 months ago, right, to now, maybe $200 per month difference with the interest rate at where it's at. But as a buyer, I think it's a great time to buy still because now the sellers are willing to work with you.
Yes.
And my prediction, honestly, within 6 months to a year, the prices are going to start going back up because interest rates will start going down. It's already started. It's already gone down already. Yeah.
Plus we're getting into spring.
Yeah.
When people always need to move, relocate, right? So we're getting into that time of the market where it gets busy because people want to move if they have kids before the school year starts. They want to move when it's warm weather, those kind of things.
Okay.
And there's no foreclosures. There's no short sales. People are not underwater. So there is no, there's nothing happening in the market to tell us that there's going to be a crash. Nothing.
Right.
Okay. All right. It's interesting. Like I said, everyone's got different, it's good to hear different things. That's why, back in the day, I talked to 20 different realtors. This week, I actually spoke to 2 different commercial lenders. And it's interesting to hear different people say different things.
Yeah.
One guy was saying, you should take money and go buy a franchise, go buy a Popeye's chicken. Like everyone's got something, different to say. Danny was looking to work at a Popeye's chicken.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it.
Working or buying?
Well, I'm definitely not buying.
Could you imagine being a Popeye's chicken? Even if it made like $1 million a year, could you imagine being in a Popeye's chicken?
I just
like,
had Popeyes today.
No, I'm just saying, it's one thing, fine, let's say it makes a lot of money, but I just couldn't imagine, being at a Popeye's chicken. I got to go every day to the Popeye's chicken to check on my employees that are selling chicken. It just doesn't feel right, But, it could be a great moneymaker, but everyone's got something different to say.
Absolutely.
And I think the goal is to talk to different people.
Yeah, but also for me, right, I'm very experienced because I buy properties elsewhere, too. So it's not just here. I know the market across the country. I have investments in other places.
And
so
she's
I
big with-
compare.
Yeah, she's big with buying land. How many acres would you say that you own?
Hundreds and hundreds.
Hundreds and hundreds of acres.
So I can bury my exes. Or I don't know.
And every piece of land, she's got an X that's buried there. One of those crosses with the flowers.
He is going to be the protector of the land, you see.
Oh, he's watching over. One of my boyfriends is watching this land in Pahrump for me. He just happens to be 8 feet under, and she buries them herself, so she saves the money.
Starting all these rumors about me. No wonder I'm going to be single forever.
That's right.
Okay, so I want to jump topics, but I really appreciate with the real estate.
Sure.
Again, if anybody's interested with buying real estate, Gentille.
Call me, babies.
Gentille's always available for those late night calls for real estate.
For real estate.
Tell me about that 4-bedroom, 3-bath home over in Anthem. Tell me about it quietly.
It's midnight.
So Gentille's always available. Gentille, what's your number for all the lovely women and men that are out there?
702-467-3131. See, it rhymes.
You have a jingle yet or no?
Yeah,
No
not
jingle?
yet. I see it.
We
You
gotta work
could
on
have a
that.
jingle
Yeah.
with that.
I'll sing it for you.
702
Can you sing it?
467 3131.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can.
Yeah. I do voiceover.
Yeah, that could be good.
And Erin, everyone's with Movement Mortgage. Actually, Danny only wears the hat and the underwear that you got.
Yes, and
likes
he
the
said
underwear.
he's getting very good compliments.
I
with
wore the
Movement
hat the
Mortgage.
other day when I was live on TikTok, and
Yep.
people knew it.
Yeah.
They knew the hat. They called it out. Honestly,
What hat?
I have a hat from her mortgage company.
Oh, yeah.
Camouflage Movement Mortgage, yeah.
I really love the
Wow.
camouflage
We're
one.
really into swag.
Yeah.
Nice.
People were calling it out. I have like 17,000 followers from Vegas, and they were calling it out when I was wearing a hat. Honest to God, they were
mortgage.
calling. Yeah, they were. Honest to God,
I
I was
like
like,
that.
"You guys know the hat?" They're like, "Yeah, I know the hat." So it was
Hey,
good for you.
Danny, do you think your fans will buy merchandise from you?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We got to set that up, okay?
All
Because
right.
I do merchant processing too.
If
so.
we did a psycho
Well, we
and
just
a
we just
psychic
put that up on the
shirt.
thing.
Psycho
You know, I
and
don't know how that
psychic.
works.
a
We'll
good
talk about
idea.
that one too. By the way, she needs to come up with a jingle because I don't know if you know that she's a good singer.
Yeah, and
See
I
if this
write
works.
songs.
She's a great singer, Laura.
much I love you. Never know how much I care.
Wow.
I heard this song
When
live.
you put your
Oh, yes,
arms
that's
around
right.
Yeah, I heard her sing this
I get
live.
a fever that's so hard to bear. You give me fever.
Thanks, Dave.
It's a good. We're gonna have to do a jingle for Gentille.
Love it.
Yeah.
I added that in your bio. Did you
Laura's
notice that?
very talented.
Listen, I think for this next
Thank
segment,
you.
I'm going to go in the green room because I really want to hear this. I'm not going to be able to hear it.
The green room?
Chase,
you
how
mean
do
like
we- so we're about to put someone live on the show. How does? Is he gonna just have to hear?
I'm
it
not
through
going to
his-
hear it, right?
You will not know.
Here.
Well, I can
No,
give
no,
you
that's
mine.
right.
Danny?
I'll go in the other room.
green room is
No,
a
but you have
sex
to talk.
club. The
There's a
green
sex
room
club.
is a
Yeah, but I
sex
can't
club.
talk because I'm not going to hear the guy. So how am I going to ask
way
him
of putting it-
questions? I didn't even know what he's saying.
We don't have speakers now.
Who does lip sync? Who does?
Do you have it on
who
in the
reads-
green
Here,
room?
I've got it. Here, use my headphones.
No,
No,
That's
yeah.
actually a good
Use my
idea.
headphones.
No,
You can use my head- yeah.
We're good.
Why don't we switch seats here? No, because you're not gonna be able to talk to the guy once you
Yeah,
ask
How am I
because-
questions.
going to talk to him? I ain't going to know what he's saying. You guys
You
going to have to
can
tell me.
Use my headphones.
You can use
How do you use
his.
his?
Yeah.
Can you go over there?
Yeah, come on over.
No, I'm good. I'm
come
good.
on down.
I'm good. I'm good.
Come on down, Danny.
I'm good. I'm going to go in the green room and listen to it. And I'll come in if I have questions.
What?
Well,
Yes.
why not?
That's what
Do
I'll
you want
do.
to use
Well, that
mine?
doesn't make sense.
No, but I want you to be on here because you're
guys.
so interested in it.
Danny's probably,
Danny, come here.
he may be using. He
I
has to
think-
take
I'll
a-
come in if I
You
have
got to go that way.
Dude,
All right.
you guys chase
So,
Danny out of here.
This is Chase's. This is we're not totally equipped here today. You know, we're not at the 110% mark.
All right, I'm going to admit him now.
Okay, we're gonna have Mark Gober. He's an author and speaker on the show. Mark, you there?
Well, let me just pin him over here
There
and
he is.
unmute him. You
Hello.
can't see him yet. The fans watching. Just a second.
Okay.
Will he be able to see us?
Yes.
Okay.
Mark, can you see us?
I can see you.
Yay.
Hey,
Hi, Mark.
hi.
Can you hear
Hi,
us?
hi, everyone.
hi.
You can hear us too.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. All right, Mark. So you know this
There we
lovely
go.
person, Laura, here.
I do.
Awesome.
Very lucky to know Laura.
Great. So
Mark.
You look
Mark,
very young. How old are you,
He's
if I may
16.
ask?
16.
Almost 37.
That's the right age for me, 16. Yeah.
Mark, you are a author and speaker. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I started off in the business world, worked in investment banking in New York, and then was in Silicon Valley advising tech companies. But about 6 years ago, became very interested in the nature of reality. Who are we? Why are we here? And long story short, since then, I've written 5 books and produced a podcast series around those topics.
Okay, awesome.
That's
One of the big topics is kind of funny because Danny walked out and he's always talking about UFOs.
He
Yeah.
loves he loves
Yeah.
UFOs.
Hopefully he's next door listening. But
Oh,
I know you.
God.
So tell us about this book. What's the book called for the UFO situation?
It's called An End to Upside Down Contact.
Okay, I would not have come up with that
Into
name.
Upside down.
His book
contact.
series is an end to upside down. It's fill in the blank. So it's.
Oh, I
And
thought.
then can you read the subtext or the subcategory too? Because that.
God, I thought it was
explains
sexual or something. You know.
Yeah, the subtitle is UFOs, Aliens, and Spirits, and why their ongoing interaction with human civilization matters.
Got it.
oh, I like that.
Seems like a very
Yes.
small topic.
Seems very
Small
interesting.
topic.
Seems very interesting.
So tell us, especially for Danny Miner, who's he was a co-host a minute ago of the show here until he walked out. But tell us a little bit about his big experience. Is he wants to know about UFOs? Everyone wants to know: is it out there? Does it exist? Give us some insight of what the hell's going on out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason the book's called An End to Upside Down Contact is that I'm looking at the contact phenomenon broadly, meaning human contact with advanced intelligences. And I look at it from the perspective of allegations of UFOs, meaning physical crafts that people see in the sky, but also from a non-physical perspective, meaning multidimensional beings that people encounter in a whole wide range of domains, like psychedelic experiences, near-death experiences when a person's in cardiac arrest and then they're resuscitated and they have this wild encounter. There are lots of different areas, whether it's physical or non-physical, where people are reporting other beings. And it's not just in contemporary times, it goes back to ancient history too.
Mm-hmm.
So
more than just the sightings, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced any of these things personally?
Not that I'm aware of. And I say it that way because in many of the encounters, there's a phenomenon known as missing time, where there's a memory gap. So I guess it's possible that or others of us have had experiences that we don't have conscious access to in terms of our memory.
Right.
I haven't had anything that I can remember. I know lots of people that have had experiences where they can communicate with other dimensions of consciousness with their mind. I haven't had anything like that. But I also want to caveat this because this goes back to my earlier work when I was looking a lot at the brain and our conscious experience. My inference now or hypothesis is that our brain is actually like an antenna or a filter. So we're picking stuff up all the time, meaning it's possible that we're being influenced by energies or consciousnesses that we can't see with our eyes. So I would say it's possible that I've had influences that I don't consciously know about.
Right, right. And I mean, and if anything were to happen, I've read a lot of the abduction books and stuff, right?
Okay.
I mean, they always say, like, if they're going to experiment on you or do anything, they're going to erase it from your mind anyways. They don't want you to remember it, correct?
That's what it seems to be the case in most, but there are instances where people have memories. I'm thinking back to the work of John Mack, who was the head of psychiatry at Harvard, Pulitzer Prize winner. He used the technique of hypnosis to try to calm people's minds down to unlock memories. And often people would come to him with some memories of an abduction or something like it, where they saw a UFO or they encountered beings. But then when hypnosis was used, there were more memories that were unlocked.
Interesting.
So they only remembered a small part of the actual experience.
Right.
Yes. And to add on to that, Laura, sometimes they even misremembered parts of it. So when they went into hypnosis, they revised their memories and they realized, wow, I didn't fully remember it properly. And this goes to another phenomenon that's reported, which is pretty crazy. It's known as screen memories, where a memory is implanted that's not actually accurate. And a common one is the animal of the owl, where, for example, and this work has been studied by Mike Cleland, who's written multiple books on it, where a person says, I saw an owl on the side of the road and I went to see the owl and then I went to drive home and it was a few hours later. Then they went under hypnosis and evaluated that same thing in a more relaxed state in terms of their consciousness. And they go up to the owl in their mind and they realize, wait a second, that wasn't an owl. This is a gray alien.
Oh, interesting.
It's so interesting. I love that you've dived into this work. So Mark's first book is on kind of consciousness and talks a lot about psychic matters. And as a psychic, I do and see and sense the world quite differently than most people. And as I dove further into the psychic realm, I became aware that there's a lot of non-humans walking around here that look human or are passing as human. And so I'd love if you can just talk a little bit about that, what you wrote specifically about stories that people had and maybe any kind of documentation that might be in the book.
Be interesting to know. How would you tell?
Well, I was exposed to this topic early on in my research. I was listening to Laura's podcast years ago, and I was hearing about this sort of thing when you talked about it, Laura. It's something also John Mack talked about, the Harvard psychiatrist, where he even said in his book Abduction that the aliens are consummate shapeshifters, meaning they can change their form. And many other people have reported this. It's a difficult thing to study because you can't put it into a lab often. These are ephemeral instances where it just happens randomly. But people have reported this. Also under hypnosis, they've gone back to some memory and they'll realize, wow, this person was appearing to be human, but then actually it was a reptilian, like a reptile humanoid being. Now, strangely enough, in my book, I document this a few times where it occurred in sexual circumstances, where a woman was having a sexual encounter with what appeared to be a male, which projected to them the type of male that they would find attractive. And then they realized the male was going in and out of being a male human to a a reptilian or a gray alien. One of the instances I mentioned was the woman recalled this under hypnosis, and the other, I believe, was just, I don't remember if it was hypnosis or just her regular memory.
Oh, wow. I'm glad my lover didn't shapeshift.
Well, that you know of. That you know of.
Well, yeah, maybe not. But my eyes were closed when it was happening. I was just feeling it.
So Gentille wanted to share a story about how she was like had a sexual relations with an extraterrestrial.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You want to share that story?
Or a spirit. Some
If
kind
you
of
don't
It was
mind.
a
being.
spirit, yes.
very
Well, I
interested
did
in
tell
this story.
Laura. Yeah, I told Laura about it. But
Tell us.
a few years ago, I would always want to go to sleep and I slept quite a bit, you know. But I had a lover basically that came, and it was a spiritual lover, and it was amazing, and it was all the time for at least a few years, right? I don't tell too many people about it because they're like, okay, Gentille, you're sex deprived or something. And I could have been, who knows, right? So my mind could have made it up too. I'm not sure, but it was so real. I was dreaming it and I was sleeping. It happened every time when I went to bed. But it felt like it was just the most incredible sex I've ever had, right? So he hasn't visited me in a few years. But I also feel that I think he was cock blocking a lot of real relationships for me too.
Is this specific?
Which I didn't mind.
Is this specific? Do we think that it's like someone that is within your home, like from previous lives?
Like a spirit or something?
Spirit?
No, my home was very
So you think it's more extraterrestrial type of?
something. I mean, Laura probably
that's
can explain
interesting.
that better. But I mean, I'm telling you, it's like the most mind blowing. Like it was incredible.
Erin,
And
did you have a similar story to this? or
I
no?
have not.
You never
No,
experienced this, right?
unfortunately,
Yeah.
no,
I'm surprised. Most mortgage agents, I would think, actually have
like,
this type of situation. Erin's like, can you send this guy over when my husband's not there?
But there's another instance too. When I used to live in New York, and New York is a hub for a lot of this,
Sure.
activity, right?
It's very haunted.
Yes, very. So when I lived there, and I was in my 20s. Now back then, I partied a little bit more, right? Now I don't party at all. But then, a lot of things happened to me in New York, which was actually more scary. Like I was like getting raped
Yeah.
a lot. When I went to sleep, I was afraid to go to sleep because every time I went to sleep, they would come and I can see them. And I'm not psychic at all. I don't think I have any
Well,
psychic power.
I think you have at least some psychic ability, Gentille.
Yeah, well, you think
So,
so? Yeah,
so
maybe.
Mark,
Yeah.
I know you're just an
But I
author
would-
and speaker, but in regards to the situation, what's your assessment
yeah.
of her
Yeah.
sexual fantasies or sexual lovers that come
Am
through
I crazy?
the extraterrestrial world? Because it appears that she's speaking as if it was the truth. What's your take on that?
Well, one of the examples I reference in my book is from a former Navy officer, Matthew Roberts. He wrote a book called Initiation, and he describes something pretty similar, where he was in a dreamlike state and was having a sexual encounter with a being that he said that the face started basically flipping between different types of faces and then landed on his ex-girlfriend. And he was having a sexual encounter in a state that was in between sleep and non-sleep. And then he felt something that it was not human skin.
Oh, wow.
So it was very unclear in what state of consciousness this was happening. But to him, it was very, very real.
Yeah.
I think this is more common than people realize, and often people just dismiss it as a dream.
Mm-hmm.
But from my perspective as a psychic, there are a lot of different things happening. There's spirits, so people whose bodies has died and their soul has remained, here on the earth plane. There's lots of different dimensions. So there's extra dimensional beings, and then there's also extraterrestrial beings. And I think any number of those can come through.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, like what Mark's talking about, they're very smart and can manipulate. I once had an old friend of mine, and we were not romantically involved, but he said that he had he felt like he and I energetically had sex. And I was like, that wasn't me. And I think it was a being that kind of like what you're talking about, kind of ended up fixing on me as because he reacted to that, and then basically manipulated him in that way.
Well, I always say
Anyway.
yeah, I was saying, look, if I am getting abducted, right, or if the aliens are visiting, please give me some superpower or something.
Yes.
Don't just fuck me and leave me. Give me something.
Give me. I would like a
some-
superpower. That would be pretty cool.
It's like the movie Cocoon.
Yes.
Remember back in the
Yeah.
day?
I do remember
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that movie.
There's a lot of stuff going on in your house, Gentille. I'm not sure.
No, it's not my house.
Wherever you are, there seems a lot going on. A lot of
it's
activity.
So let's just say people can be haunted, or a place can be. And I think when
Right.
I do believe you have some psychic ability, Gentille. And
Okay.
when you have that, you're more likely to attract, I think, extraterrestrials as well as spirits. And a lot of extraterrestrial beings are psychic. They're very psychic and they're telepathic.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've been in public where suddenly they were like, and they started paying attention to me because they could feel
that you can,
my telepathy or whatever. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Now, I think in your book, Mark, you talk about people that have impacts and then they were implants or some kind of contact and then something does change because or who was it? David brought that up about, you want something for it.
You want, what happened?
Yeah. That's a great point, that people change after these experiences. And this was studied not only by John Mack as a psychiatrist, but also by Dr. Kenneth Ring, who was well known for studying near-death experiences and realized, wow, when people have a near-death experience, they come back changed in many ways. Their life priorities change. They become more spiritual, and they might also become more psychic. So that's something in near-death experiences that happens. But then he also saw that in UFO encounters, like an abduction, there were similar things. Changes in the person's physiology, they become more spiritual. Sometimes people are actually even healed in these experiences. They had some kind of lifelong illness and then it's gone magically. So it's strange because in some ways the experiences can be traumatic. They can have sperm and eggs extracted during the abduction, and people talk about hybrid beings that they see on the crafts. I mean, crazy stuff. But then when they integrate the experience, and John Mack, who looked at this from a psychiatric lens, it actually helped their lives if they were able to integrate the trauma.
Mark, this is like a very advanced topic to me. I was a cop for 17 years, so like to me, this is like, over my head. I guess you have to make it really, to dumb it down, like kind of like UFO for dummies. Do you believe that there is another planet where there's aliens walking around and living and eating and like planet Earth? I think that's the best way I can dumb it down.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I think there is. I think there's evidence for that. There's also the non-physical element. So I guess there could be planet or planet-like places that we just don't see with our eyes. Yeah. But in this dimension, it seems that that's the case based on all the reports. And I'm also thinking of some of the research I did on people who have allegations of past life memories. And there's a woman named Dr. Linda Bachman, who I initially heard on Laura's podcast, Healing Powers, who takes people into hypnosis to help them try to unlock memories. And spontaneously, they started talking about how they had a previous life that wasn't on Earth, and they were like an alien. They weren't a human species. And Dr. Bachman was not interested in this topic. Like, people just were spontaneously recalling it. She ended up writing a book about what she calls interplanetary souls, because it came up so much and she couldn't ignore the data. So the short answer is I do think that there are these other locations where there are beings that are not human species.
Yeah. I mean, come on. The universe is so vast, Dave.
It's true.
There's no way that we're
this is
the
an advanced
only
topic.
people.
Okay, so your book is called
intelligence.
An End to Upside Down Thinking, right?
That's the first one.
That's
The
first
alien book is An End to Upside Down Contact.
Okay, I'm just looking online here. Oh, yeah, that's right. An End to Upside Down Contact. So basically, you can get these books on Amazon, right?
Yep, they're on Amazon in hard copy, Kindle, and Audible.
Do you think that if you're smoking drugs at the same time reading your book, that it's more enhanced?
That's a good question. I haven't tried it, but I do talk about hallucinogens in the book, and people have these weird experiences with other beings.
Gentille doesn't even need the book. She's just already so advanced.
I'm already advanced.
She's got multiple people. I mean, they're even paying rent.
I'm past stage of lunacy already, so that's why
How
I'm
do
so
we know
advanced.
Laura is not a, from another planet? That she's not. How can we detect
I
that?
very well could be.
Who knows?
Shit, Laura, I need more help from you. God damn it!
I think rent should be higher for people that people have.
Stop.
They're from another planet. She's from another planet. There's an extra fee.
Here's the thing. I have like probably not the typical view or perspective on things, but I think that a lot of people here do have some DNA from other types of beings.
Sure.
So whatever we might call them, fairies, different kinds of what we would call supernatural mythical creatures, extraterrestrial beings, extra-dimensional beings. I think it's a lot more complex than what we think. Like, you're human or you're not human.
Right.
That's my perspective on that.
Right. We're all alien anyway, if you think about it. Seriously.
I don't know. This is a very advanced topic.
Creation.
So, Mark, anything else you want to share with us? I appreciate you coming on the podcast, The Problem Solver. I guess if other people have this type of problem, I guess we're going to have them go through Laura and Gentille to get to you.
Just come.
But
just call us for some advice.
Anything else you want to share that you want to leave with us or any of the listeners and viewers?
Sure. I want to add on to Laura's comment about the possibility that humans are a hybrid of multiple species. In the book, I looked at some ancient texts and the way people have evaluated those texts, even biblical analyses, which if you read them from the modern lens of some of these contemporary, accounts where people are abducted or whatever, it might be that in ancient times, these more advanced beings were doing genetic experiments in the same way that we do experiments with plants and other things. And we could be a product of that. I don't know if it's true, but there's some interesting evidence.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's a
believe
very
in that
interesting
completely.
thought.
No.
That we've been
completely.
engineered, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're doing it now, right? We're trying to clone,
True.
animals and stuff, and we're just here. We're definitely not advanced.
That's true.
Yeah.
But can you
And
imagine a species that's way more advanced, that's been around for, billions of years? The capabilities that they have.
Absolutely.
Jesus, walking on water. How about Mary? She got pregnant, supposedly, without
Yeah.
having sex.
You talked to her? How do you know this for a fact?
We're going to channel her. Yeah.
That could be another
But
show.
hey, this started a long time ago.
All right, so Mark, I appreciate your insight. We'll put your links up on theproblemsolver.vegas, and we'll share your information with your book. I appreciate you coming on the show. Any other last things from Mark? Any other questions?
I just briefly, I wonder if you have anything to say about Area 51. We're
Oh, yeah,
here
good
in
que-
Las
good question.
Vegas. We're not far from that location.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there are a lot of sightings and things here, specifically in Nevada.
There have been lots of speculations about it. My guess is that something happened that is being covered up. And what that is, it's hard to tell, but something important seemed to have happened.
Well, they think we humans cannot handle it right now. That's why they're not exposing themselves completely. It's just little
Or
bits
why
and pieces.
why the government is.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
And Paul Davids is another man who might come on the show. He created the movie Roswell, but he was just a filmmaker, and then he saw a flying saucer in the middle of the day. And as soon as he started to investigate this, and he created the movie Roswell, and then he, his phone got tapped, and he
Yeah.
started to
Got
get
shut down.
attention from the government. So I think that there's been a large scale effort from the government to hide, especially the
yeah.
federal government, and not just the U.S. government, but many
Well,
governments.
because we can't handle it.
Well, that's the
Seriously, most
perception.
humans cannot.
Mark, let me throw out one last question
Yeah.
for
Or
you.
they
So
think
we
that,
have
yeah.
we have some different fans. We have Angry Steve is one of our fans, and he's saying basically what because the problem solver show. He's saying what problems are we solving by having you on the show? How would you answer that question? Like, how could you solve someone's problems with your book or information? What insight can you give to help others? And that's really it's a wide
knowledge
question.
Knowledge.
But
baby.
I wanted to throw it out there to see what he would say.
Sure. Well, I think the answer to this question is what's driven me to start writing books in the first place, which is trying to understand who we are and what we're doing here. Because the answer to that question, in my mind, influences the way we live life on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
So in the context of aliens, understanding that we're not alone and maybe these beings have been impacting us for a long time,
Okay,
that's really important knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting perspective on that.
Also,
Yeah.
if you are a person who has been impacted by these, it can be very troubling, and you better understanding the situation, not feeling alone, is very
yes.
helpful. So for me as a psychic, I literally felt like I was crazy growing up until I started connecting with other teachers and other
Yes.
people who had these abilities, and I can't tell you how comforting that was to feel like, oh, I'm not cuckoo crazy
Yeah.
for this. And even just being interested in this, I think opening up the dialogue helps people to feel okay with even just their own interests.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Mark, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate your insight. We'll definitely let people know about your book. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Mark.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Mark.
Nice to meet all of you.
So, it's funny. So I was saying about Angry Steve, who's our fan. You're going to laugh at this, Erin. He says, Erin's looking at everyone as batshit crazy. So
No, that is. You know what, Angry Steve? No, I just must have that look on me all the time.
I'll be honest with you.
I'm absorbing all the information.
No offense to Mark. I mean, the guy's I can tell very intellectual
Yeah.
guy. But this one right over me. I mean, because I think with me and
Mm-hmm.
even Danny, who once was here before as a co-host,
Who should be coming back in the room?
yeah, he should
Yeah,
come
come
back
on,
if
Danny.
he hears us. I think he disappeared. He's
I
not.
already texted him to come back for the end of the show.
I think
He already left.
He's
I
out
think
getting a cheeseburger.
I think he did a Beja and he's gone.
Oh, he's hungry. That's
hungry.
what happened. Yeah, he's very hungry. You didn't feed him.
But what I'll share with you is I just think this went over my head.
Yeah.
And you guys may be more intellectual.
But that's what
as
I'm
being
saying.
females.
You see,
We
most of the
want to know,
population.
are there
yeah.
people on this planet right now that are aliens? Are they dressed up as
Yes.
Erin here? Or are they...
Well, not Erin specifically.
But you know what I'm saying? That's
never know.
that's
Well, she
that's
would
what we
know.
want to know.
I'm an alien.
Yes,
No, I
I
know
literally.
that. Yeah.
So as a psychic, humans feel a certain way, And I've been out in public, and I'm like, looks like a human, not a human. Like energetically,
She's
they
telling me
do
you
not
walk around and you're like, this
feel-
guy's not a human.
Yes.
Yeah.
Erin, do you, as a mortgage agent, do you have that ability at moving mortgage?
No, I don't. But I do look at people sometimes like they're batshit crazy. So
That's from previous experience.
But that's what I'm saying. Most people cannot understand and
wanna-
fathom this, right? And they won't be able to handle
It's
it.
too advanced to stop me
Handle
from
it. That's why they're like you, Dave.
I just
They-
need to dumb it down. Like,
Yeah.
yes, we have aliens and they're walking around. And
Hey, I was
Like-
I was a resident alien in the beginning.
oh, see, there you go.
See?
Just
a
different
resident
type.
alien?
Yeah.
You
How's
know,
that?
before she got
Because
her
she was not a citizen.
Before
Right.
before you
Not a
become
citizen.
citizen,
Oh,
you're a
yeah,
resident alien from a
It's
different
weird,
country.
It's weird when you have
permanent
that card.
resident alien,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that was kind of a weird
Dave,
conversation.
we're not the only planet, okay, that have intellectual beings.
There's a quote I saw on Facebook, and so I did not come up with this, but I'm gonna read it because I feel like it's very helpful. It says, "Not believing in the existence of aliens is like taking a spoonful of water from an
Yeah.
ocean and saying there is no shark in the ocean because there's none in my spoon."
Yes, I always saw that today.
It is what
I
we
thought
don't know.
that was an interesting topic.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just
You know what? I
It's
did
kinda-
agree with what he said at the very end, though. Whether you believe in the aliens, I think everybody, all of us as humans on the planet, are searching for why we're here, what we're all about, whether it's religious purposes, whether it's, you know, extra. I can't even say the word right now.
Extra.
But I think a lot of people don't think about those kind of topics.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't even think about the week ahead because it's too hard because
Yes.
it takes processing and it takes thought and it takes what am I going to do about it now? So I don't know. It's an interesting topic.
Knowledge is power,
Right.
and remember, we have history, and history has said all these things too, written down thousands of
Right.
years ago. You know, so it's been happening for a long time. But they know that we still can't handle it because we're like cavemen still.
interesting.
Yeah.
So as we close out this problem solver, I just wanted to recap of everybody in this room, which I think is interesting. The goal of the problem solver is to have a network of different people that help people with problems. So if you're looking to buy real estate, Gentille is available
Yes.
to help with her vast experience, which I think it's amazing that all the real estate and the success that she had. So if someone basically is interested in buying or selling real estate, I think to give a call to Gentille because she's definitely a problem solver when it comes to real estate.
Yes.
In regards to Laura, her psychic ability, basically, if you're looking for psychic reading, which she actually did one in the studio earlier today for people, and some people really want that clarity of the future. I know even my wife, she would say, she needs to read me. Everybody wants to know the future. I don't know if it's good or not to really know the future. But you're getting in contact with Laura.
And I want to say that I believe you can change the future. So that's the important thing is not to just know what's coming. I mean, that can be helpful, but also to be able to impact it. That's what I want to do is help people like, I want to create this or I want to release whatever. Here, how do I do that? And that's one of the things I can help with.
And then Erin, basically with Movement Mortgage, helping people with mortgages, whether it's first time or investors and stuff like that. So you can get with Erin from Movement Mortgage. Myself, if you have any type of problems. Danny Miner, who is the co-host in regards to, these days his role as of the crime solver is like a lot of people I actually feel they want help with missing persons. A lot of people actually called up earlier today and mentioned it before. And I think that Danny's going to wind up being more of a person to help people kind of make aware of missing persons, whether it's from 30 years ago or 20 years ago. Because it's kind of scary. That's what I even tell my wife and children, like, you got to be careful walking around. It's kind of scary. And then recently I've heard a story where some woman and her child was over like at one of these Ulta stores and they thought they were going to be human trafficked and they were following them around. But I think you just need to be really careful. But I think Danny, for 2023, is going to wind up helping people more helping people and getting the community involved to solve crime and also getting more awareness of these missing person cases and sharing photos and videos of people.
Is Danny going to be solving some of these crimes?
Well, the goal
what is
with
he
the
doing?
whole crime solver is specifically to get the community involved to help solve crime. Because they always say that crime is not a police problem; it's a community problem.
Yeah.
So getting the community involved, but by sharing pictures and photos and information,
Awareness.
if one people sees a photo of somebody like, hey, that looks like my neighbor's kid or something, that's weird. So it's really getting involved. And in the future may be where Danny goes out to locations, being retired law enforcement and helps out. We talked about this with Idaho. I think when major things happen, it would be great to actually send Danny out to a location to like help investigate, part of the problem solver, the crime solver,
I just read this news thing that came out. So these kids were lost for 20 years.
20
right?
years.
No one, I forgot where it was at, one town somewhere, and Texas or something. And there was just all the speculation and stuff, and people were calling and going, I think they ran off to Florida or whatever, right? So there was a guy that was kind of like a Danny, that was just some random dude, but he liked he liked the investigation aspect. He was an investigator, so he went there, and he was a diver. He was a scuba diver, so he kind of read a little bit of what happened, and he went to the nearest lake and dove in there and found their car, and their bodies were in there. For 20 years, no one knew what happened to them until he went over there.
What's odd is no one thought to look in the lake.
No, because they were getting so many facts or so many calls about, they're doing this and they're doing that, or the drug deal gone bad. There's a lot of speculation.
Sure.
So no one checked that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Gotta be careful there. But anyways, thanks so much for joining, Erin.
Thank you.
Gotta be careful out there.
No, I'm just saying in general, you gotta just be careful out there, with everything going on. But especially
Your car can end up in the lake, and people think you ran off with a boyfriend or something.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Be
Double
careful.
problem. So I'm David Coleman, the Problem Solver. Thanks so much, Erin, for joining us.
Thank you, Dave.
Sharing some insight. Thanks so much, Dr. G. Gentille,
All right.
for co-hosting, and Laura, and then Danny as well as the Crime Solver. Thanks so much, all you guys.
Anytime, baby.
If you need something, problemsolver.vegas is a mobile app. You add it to your home screen. Network of different people, whether it's attorneys, realtors, mortgage agents, psychics, you name it. We have everybody
We
to help
have it
people.
all.
If you have a
Call
problem,
girls.
Call girls. If you're looking to get laid, you
Call
can call
boys,
Danny.
massage therapist. Oh, Dave does massage therapy.
That's
what I learned.
Maybe I'm certified. You know that? I'm a certified masseuse. So if you need some help, call the Problem Solver.Vegas, 702-999-1111. We'll see you next week. Be safe, be careful. Have a good one.